And now to what's being called a multi-million-dollar scheme to defraud the feds. A man accused of using money meant for small businesses to buy this mansion in Central Florida, along with other luxury items. He got away with it for a while, but now he's been indicted.
The scheme helped him land millions from the PPP program, and Calvin's in the newsroom with the details.
Well, we've heard the story before. The man is accused of lying about his business, saying it had hundreds of employees with an average monthly payroll of nearly $3 million. But federal investigators say none of that was true. A federal grand jury has returned this indictment charging Don Cisternino of defrauding the federal government out of $7.2 million in COVID-19 relief funds. According to allegations in the indictment, Cisternino is accused of lying about his New York-based consulting company to get millions of dollars in payroll protection plan funds. Investigators say during 2019 and 2020, the company had few or no employees other than Cisternino and his girlfriend. According to the indictment, in April 2020, the Bradenton man submitted a fraudulent PPP loan application, including false supporting documents and bank statements. The application says the company had more than 400 employees. Charging documents indicate of the $7.2 million the couple received, more than $3 million of it went to this mansion. Property records show Cisternino and his girlfriend purchased the home in July 2020. The 12-acre estate boasts a British-style pub theater, 7 bedrooms, a tennis court, and a 5-stall horse barn. Investigators say it was paid for with PPP loan money. The grand jury indictment also claims a trail of evidence reveals Cisternino spent thousands of dollars on pricey vehicles like a Maserati, Lincoln Navigator, and a Mercedes-Benz, all in a span of months in 2020. And Cisternino has been indicted on 2 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of aggravated identity theft, and 3 counts of illegal monetary transaction.
There's nothing in there.
The 8 News Now I-team investigating startling allegations of fraud. Millions of your tax dollars reportedly stolen as part of what federal authorities say was a fake business.
Yeah, that money was supposed to help struggling small businesses. Instead, the IRS says it fueled a local man's lavish lifestyle.
The I-team's David Sharns went to the address this man said he was working from. David, how much money are we talking about?
We're talking about 11 million of your tax dollars. That's according to court documents, going to buy a Tesla, a Bentley, and properties across the valley. This sponsored web article on Inc. magazine called him a dreamer. You see it down there. Someone who, quote, built a thriving flooring business out of the ashes. The I-team went to the business this man said he was working out of to try to get some answers. We did not see anything thriving.
$11.2 million. It's how much money federal investigators allege 28-year-old Milad Desfouli stole in fraudulent PPP loans. The money meant to help small businesses stay afloat during the pandemic. Instead, according to criminal documents from IRS investigators, it went toward houses, cars, and investments. Court documents say applications for those loans were written out of this office on East Sunset near Reed Airport.
There's nothing in there.
There was no sign of any business when we visited. When Desfouli applied for his first loan for a business called Best Floors, investigators say he told the government he needed money to cover 76 employees. But the IRS says Desfouli really only had 1. The I-team finding the Nevada State Contractors Board cited Best Floors and Desfouli in May 2020, a month after the IRS says he filed for the fraudulent loans. According to court documents, in another application, Desfouli reported to have nearly 500 employees for another business, but in reality, investigators say he had none.
Problems, at least for former Atlanta City Attorney and Democrat Shalitha Robertson. Now, she was just sentenced to 7 years behind bars after being found guilty for pandemic loan fraud over $15 million worth. Robertson gave out this advice in 2023.
Goes back to what I've always told you. Don't ever chase the money. The money will come.
Chase the universe, not the bag.
That's it. Chase your passion, baby. Chase your dream. The money will come.
Yeah, the money will come courtesy of the American taxpayers. Because safe to say, she didn't practice what she preached. In April and May of 2020, Robertson chose to follow the money and fraudulently applied for millions of dollars in government loans for 4 businesses that she owned. And then she hooked herself up with luxury items that came with a very steep price tag, such as a swanky Rolls Royce, a 10-carat diamond ring. And Georgia filings show that she donated $1,000 to Trump prosecutor Fani Willis's Democratic primary election campaign.
The audacity of this woman. The Paycheck Protection Program came into place during COVID when I was in the administration, and it was for the purpose of being given to business owners to keep your employees paid because employees couldn't work. Businesses, we didn't want them to go under. So this PPP program was for that purpose. This woman wrote on a form that she had 4 companies and 427 employees. I looked everywhere. I want to know how many employees she actually had. She clearly didn't have 427. She wanted to go out and buy diamonds.
Well, you can steal the money without any employees, which was part of the fraud, just to be clear. By the way, that program was $1.2 trillion. Just last summer, there was a report that $200 billion possibly was spent in fraudulent claims, PPP, unfortunately. Yes. There was the pastor in Minnesota. He said he had 28 employees. He didn't have any. There was a pastor, a man in Florida. He bought himself a $3 million home, didn't even have a business.
Wow.
I mean, the fraud was massive.
Federal prosecutors say a Coppell man was caught swindling millions of dollars in COVID stimulus money meant to help struggling businesses. Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes.
And I'm Steve Eager. It's 9 o'clock. The U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas says Dinesh Saw, here in a 2020 mugshot for an unrelated charge, confessed to submitting 15 fraudulent loan applications for stimulus money, and that he claimed the 1,700 square foot 3-bedroom home in Coppell where he lived was the headquarters for one of his businesses that needed $2 million in stimulus loan money. Court documents say he then bought other real estate and several luxury cars. Fox 4's David Santendri is at the federal courthouse in downtown Dallas with more on this fraud investigation. David.
Yes, Stephen, Heather, the SBA put up hundreds of billions of dollars in forgivable loans during the early stages of the pandemic in an effort to help small businesses pay their employees. Well, one local man admitted that he used that money, fraudulently obtained it to pay for homes and fancy cars. Fox 4 went knocking, but no one answered at the address a federal criminal complaint says Dinesh Saw lived. The 55-year-old is shown here in a 2020 Dallas County mugshot related to assault charges. But we wanted to speak with someone related to him about a $24 million COVID-19 fraud scheme he pleaded guilty to, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced Wednesday. Federal investigators previously raided his Coppell home.
And as I pulled into my driveway, I saw a lady run out the back of the house and jump in her car and take off.
Neighbor Vicki Burke saw dozens of federal agents.
And they were coming up our sidewalk with guns drawn.
She had no clue what it was about.
I saw my neighbor start to come out of her house, and I said, "Go back inside." And she did.
The U.S. Attorney's Office says the evidence gathered shows Saw submitted 15 fraudulent applications filed under names of various businesses he owned or controlled to 8 different lenders seeking more than $24 million in PPP loans. He claimed he had numerous employees and thousands of dollars in payroll expenses when, in fact, the criminal complaint says he didn't. Still, investigators say initially he got away with $17 million and purchased homes and luxury cars.
A Bentley, a Jaguar.
Well, first, it's upsetting, right? Because we have so many clients who weren't able to get enough money or missed out on the first round of money and got delayed because individuals like this were taking money they're not entitled to.
Attorney Mishti Deb, formerly of the SBA, says the Inspector General's office is dedicating a team to solely investigate PPP fraud.
It tells you that there's a lot of fraud. Unfortunately, people saw the opportunity and they seized it.
Is there too much of this going on where you don't think investigators can actually keep up with how much fraud there is?
Good question. I think there is enough of it going on that it's going to take them a while to get through all of the fraud. I mean, there's just that much.
Well, the Inspector General's office helped nab Saw. Court documents say he admitted to sending millions of dollars in PPP in international money transfers.
And it was a little disconcerting, you know, having guns drawn going down your sidewalk. But
Burke says investigators also searched another home in the neighborhood. Appraisal records list Sa as the owner.
you never know what else is going to go on. You know, it could be happening anywhere in any neighborhood.
Prosecutors called it a staggering fraud, the theft of nearly $250 million tax dollars intended to feed hungry children, instead being used to buy cars, houses, and jewelry.
The scheme that began with a simple idea in March of 2020 grew to become the largest pandemic fraud in the United States.
47 people now face charges, including conspiracy, wire fraud, money laundering, and bribery. The government alleging defendants connected to nonprofits and restaurants collected taxpayer money through federal nutrition programs.
Their goal was to make as much money for themselves as they could.
At the center of the indictments and appearing in court today, Amy Bach, founder of the nonprofit Feeding Our Future. Prosecutors say she was overseeing a massive fraud scheme. They say her organization recruited others to set up federally funded meal sites during COVID while oversight rules were relaxed. Soon, hundreds of sites in Minnesota were reporting giving out thousands of meals a day, but prosecutors say it was a fraud.
More than 125 million fake meals are at issue in this case.
Bach, whose organization the DOJ says received more than $18 million in administrative fees, pleaded not guilty today. Kevin Chambers leads the Justice Department's COVID fraud enforcement efforts.
Does it make you mad?
It infuriates me.
And says this case stands out because the money was meant for children.
Where the money went instead were to purchases of hyper luxury vehicles, sports cars, real estate in Turkey and in Kenya, which I don't have to tell you has nothing to do with getting kids fed here in Minnesota.